Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
Conversations with Jennylyn. Wherever you are in the world, I welcome you. As you know, I always do my best to bring you the most inspiring people. And today my guest, Adrian Collins, is an author, illustrator, screenwriter, filmmaker, inventor, and he will tell us how all these titles fit into his life as we continue with this interview. Thank you and welcome to Conversations with Jennylyn, Adrian.
Thank you, Jennylyn. This is a wonderful opportunity and I so appreciate you selecting me. I'm grateful. Thank you.
But you came highly recommended by someone that I trust. And so when my friends call me up and tell me, Jenny, you should interview this person, usually I know it's someone who has something inspiring to share with others. And that is why I do this show. So welcome and tell us about all these titles. So you are an author, an illustrator of a children's book. Should we start with that?
Yeah, that's a great idea. So the children's book is Jamila and the Giants. The website is dragonflytotembooks.com. It's a Shopify store. But the origin of the story is quite interesting to me. I was searching through YouTube and I came across an interesting title for what I later learned was a banned TED Talk. And it was Mysterious Stone Chambers and Giants of Ancient America. And I thought, giants in America, that's right here. I live in America, you know. And so I watched the hour-long documentary and it had compelling evidence from this stonemason who with his brother had been in the Michigan State Forest, came across these hieroglyphs and stone assemblages up in the mountains. And after a series of questions with the park rangers, discovered that it was all attributed to Native American Indians.
Wow.
And that didn't seem to line up with him because Indians, as you know, are nomadic and they are not credited with stone effigies or any kind of permanent structures. And he went on to explore the regions and found that these domes were well assembled from massive multi-ton boulders. And being a stonemason himself, he was further interested and went inside them, asked more questions, and was told that in fact, bones of giants had been found inside of all these domes.
Where are they?
This is throughout the New England region, actually centralized in Ohio, but they're found across the United States.
Wow.
And throughout the world, but primarily in the United States. And he was, as I said, he was in Michigan, and then this is later in Ohio. So the Smithsonian was the only repository of that sort of material at the time. So they were contacted and they came in and boxed up all the bones and disappeared, and then downplayed the scale and the number of skeletons that had been found. And so he continued to look at newspaper reports and whatnot from that time and compiled quite a compelling story. So I felt that I should explore it further. And I was telling my stepbrother about it over dinner in Van Nuys in winter of 2016. But I was trying to be covert because his girlfriend was listening and I didn't want her to think that I was nuts. And lo and behold, she leaned in and said, with the double rows of teeth? And I said, you know about these giants? Because their characteristic is they have 64 teeth in their mouth, double ours. Yeah. And they're bicuspid, they're not pointed, but they're twice as many. And she said, yeah, there was one such skeleton on my grandparents' farm in central Ohio. And I saw it when I was a kid, and which would have been the early 70s. And the government came in and took it away without permission. So I said, I'm telling this story. And that was it. That was how it began. I soon flew to Ohio, and they're known as they're known as mound builders, and there's been a confusion in recent history that mounds have been attributed to Indians because they've found Indian skeletons in the mounds. But Native American Indians are not, in fact, mound builders. The mounds predate them, and the oratory history from the chiefs will tell you, no, the mounds pre-existed and predated us, and we did not build them. But they, in fact, were built by the giants as multi-purpose. They were tombs, and they were also meeting dwellings. And so when I got to Ohio, I didn't know which way to turn. So I prayed to God. I said, God, send me a guide. I need to know where to go. I have a limited amount of time and money, and I need your help. The following day, I was in a little general store from 1650 in a town called Roscoe. And I found this dusty textbook that had water damage, and I brought it to the cashier. It was early in the morning, and she was sort of suspicious why I was buying this old book. And I said, oh, I'm doing a children's book on the mounds in the region. And she said, oh, yes, they have one of them in Heath. And this man I hadn't seen before in the store turned to the cashier and said, did you say Heath? And she said, yes, he's doing a children's book on the mounds. I told him there's one in Heath. He said, well, I'm the assistant to the doctor who lectures on the mounds in the area. Can I help you?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I knew right then that God—
the universe working with you.
Exactly. I knew that it was a complete follow through of the universe. And that's a gift that I learned early on, that we can put our questions into the universe and assistance will arrive. It's a fact, because we're manifestors, as you know. So I did the research. I went to the various berms, earthen berms in the area. They had a 30-acre circle and a 50-acre octagon adjacent to a 30-acre circle. They were sort of earth maps for their ancient activities. And they were likely UFOs because in the same region, they found vitrified surface stone. Vitrified is melted, and you can't melt stone with earth fire. So they had technology that raised the temperature above the heat of earth fire.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I wrote the story. And at the time I was talking with the producer over my earlier screenplay here in Los Angeles. And he said, well, what are you working on now? And I said, oh, a children's book. And he said, well, send it over. So I sent him a draft, and he said, well, let's make this as well. So I immediately got a movie deal, $5 million movie deal with Cineville out of Santa Monica. I couldn't believe it.
So wait, has the movie been made already?
No, the movie's production is contingent on the sale of my escalator invention. I invented the spiral escalator, which is another story. And I have to put up $2.5 million for the movie, and the studio will match that and we'll make a $5 million movie. So my energy now has been focused on launching my escalator company.
Oh my goodness, this is fascinating. So how many pages are in this book, and what age group was it written for?
So it's 64 pages long, 23 images, so 41 text pages. And I say it's for children from 5 to 95 years old. They, the precocious—
I like being called a child.
Exactly.
85.
Right. I had a 7-year-old who read it in England and loved it. I've had, 9-year-olds who love it. I've had 30-year-olds who can identify with it because it has out-of-body experiences in it. And I just let it find its own way. I think babysitters can read to children, and grandparents can read to children. Children can read it themselves. It does push the envelope on vocabulary and concepts, but that was my intention. I wanted something that was compelling and interesting to both parents and children rather than the rote, standards.
So where is this book being sold?
So it's being sold from the website, dragonflytotembooks.com, and it's being sold out of 2 galleries here in Los Angeles at the Beverly Center. It's also at Amazon and Apple Books, and I will have a copy up on Ingram Spark, which is the largest book distributor, shortly. But presently it's on Amazon, at Etsy, and through my sites directly.
Would you repeat the name of it again, please?
Sure. It's Jamila, and it has a unique spelling. It's Jamie, Jamylah, Jamila, and the Giants, and it's plural giants. Here we are. there's the cover. I don't know if you can see it, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a giant visits her in spirit, and no one believes her because her home is on the property where they lived 12,000 years earlier. And they just dismiss it. And lo and behold, she proves that they did live there, and thereby educating the entire world to their history.
So when this movie is out, I can sit back in my chair and go, I interviewed the author of the book that's been turned into this movie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You not only authored the book, you said you also did all of your own illustrations.
Yeah, making illustrations, paying someone to do illustrations for you can be very expensive. They were bids of $1,500 a page, you know. And I didn't have that kind of money, so I thought, let me try my hand. And I had a friend who was very encouraging. They said, just keep trying, and I did. And lo and behold, I put the book together.
I am very impressed. So
thank you.
How long has the book been out on the market?
It was August of 2019 that it first went out.
Okay, so not that long ago. So currently you are trying to find the money to produce the film so that the producer can match you and we'll have the movie version of the book. Yeah,
the invention that I mentioned is the Twist Spiral Escalator, which has a wonderful story that I'd also like to tell you about. And that company I've now established, and I built a financial model, and I built a press kit, and I've met with engineers, and I've met with commercial developers, and I have pre-orders for 10, and I'm just bringing it into existence so that I can get this appliance into shopping malls and airports and transportation centers. And then I'll be able to generate enough money to co-fund this film and 2 other films that I've written. So that's the objective.
Tell us about this twist. Exactly what is it?
So as a kid, when I was 10 years old, I stepped onto an outdoor spiral staircase, which went from someone's private pool up to the 2nd story of their home. And the moment I stepped on it, I thought, well, why isn't this mechanized? Why do I have to walk up the steps? It seems dumb that this doesn't go up automatically as a conventional escalator would. And so it was really from that age that I thought spiral staircases should be mechanized. This is silly. At the same time, my brother was studying electrical engineering. I had a very advanced brother, and he was with a mentor who gave him books from Nikola Tesla. And he brought the books home, and he and my mother, I should say, held them before me, and they said, these books are written by one of the smartest minds in the history of the modern world. This is Nikola Tesla. And don't be very careful with these books. And so I opened them and I looked at them, and it looks like, Egyptian hieroglyphs. It's all electrical symbols. And I thought, I know this is powerful information, but there's no way I can understand this. And I wish I could, but obviously it's the realm of my brother, who's more inclined towards electrical engineering. And I was, piano player and artist and dancer kind of thing. So I put the books down regrettably. I thought I can't learn these. So in about 2006, I thought, because my films were not being funded, I thought, well, I've got to find some other funding revenue. I thought I better make this concept of a spiral escalator a reality. And my brother said, oh, that won't work. And my sister said, well, they can do anything with machines. Just go ahead and invent it, and it'll work. So I made a wood and paper and string model, styrofoam and wire. And I was just sitting with it and trying to figure out how best it would come together. And then I went away for a while. Then I came back and built a styrofoam model. And one day when I was working with what would be the cables for the steps, I created a unique turnaround mechanism, and I applied it. And I thought, that's it. It's going to have twin steps. The interior step will go up and the anterior step will come down simultaneously, and it'll be a continuous loop. And throughout history, they've tried to make these, but they're massive because they didn't understand how to turn the steps around in an efficient amount of space. And I thought of a solution. So I presented it to an engineer and he said, you realize that you solved the problem, right? The reason it didn't exist is because no one knew how to do what you realized. And I said, no, I didn't know that. And he said, well, you did. So that's how it can exist. So the engineers were blown away. They said, you've transcended a challenge in engineering simply by thinking it through. I said, well, that's great. And so I've had a psychic for about 18 years. His name is Edward Carrion. I mentioned him to you. He's a former police officer. He has remote viewing. He's an incredible psychic. But one of his expertise is to give forecasts for companies. He works for shipping lines and train shipping. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you see for the future of my invention, the twist? And he said, well, how did you get the solution? And I said, it just came to me. And I knew he was referring to that step return mechanism.
Yes.
And he said, it was given to you. And I said, given to me? He said, yeah, there's a spirit here telling me that they gave you the initial concept. They let you work on it for a while, and then they gave you the solution so you could complete it. And I thought, well, I didn't have any voices in my head, so I don't know what this is about. And I have chronic tinnitus. I have the shrieking, cicada sound in my ear 24/7, and it's gotten worse over time since 2010. And I said, can you help me with this ringing in my ears? And my psychic, Edward, said, no, that's not my area. And so I had been introduced to another psychic, Adela Levine, who's amazing. And I had already introduced her to the invention of the spiral escalator. And she loved it. And I called her up. I said, I've got this terrible tinnitus. I was wondering if I could consult with you and maybe we could speak to my spirit guide and get some sort of solution. And she said, yeah, book an appointment and come in and we'll see what happens. I said, great. So I get to the appointment and she said, you're here for that ear thing, right? And I said, yeah. She said, well, I want to talk about your invention. I said, okay. She said, there's a spirit here telling me that they gave you the initial concept. They let you work on it for a while, and then they gave you the solution so you could complete it. I said, that is verbatim of what my psychic told me 10 days ago. She said, yeah, his name is Nikola Tesla.
Are you kidding me?
No, that's what she
Look,
said.
I have to interrupt you here because I work with another person who's been on my show a few times, who is using scalar light to heal people.
Okay, yeah.
That was originally Nikola Tesla's, from his expertise and his books and training.
Yeah.
Is what he used to develop this light. Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. It gets better. And you may know there's a lot of chatter on the internet right now that during the lightning storm that occurred at Nikola Tesla's birth, it is implied that his soul was sent to his mother from Venus, that he's Venusian. And that's why he just gave a life of technology, because everything he did was beyond anything that was on Earth. So there's no way he could have figured it out from what was on Earth.
But do you understand how many people watching this show will be thinking, there are two nuts? Listen to those two nuts. Because
some people,
this stuff is so, if someone is not spiritually evolved, this stuff just goes right over their heads, because there's so many people who believe you die and that's the end of you.
Right. Sadly so. That's what they think. Yeah.
But they're like, he's dead. What craziness are they talking about?
Exactly.
I know. And clearly you know that is not true. When you die, that's not the end of you. That's the end of your physical form.
Absolutely.
But it's not the end of your spirit. So tell us more. I want to hear. Tell me what happened.
So when she said, it's Nikola Tesla, quite casually, I about slid out of my chair, because it immediately took me back to 10 years old when I thought, I don't have the bandwidth to understand this electrical engineering. And yet here's Nikola Tesla in the room saying he gave me the idea for the spiral escalator. So I was grateful and shocked and in awe and stunned all at the same time, because parallel to this, I had created a Pinterest page dedicated to Nikola Tesla because I thought he's such a wonderful man. But I had no idea that he was guiding my invention at the same time.
So wait,
I thought this.
Stop. Let me stop you. Sorry, I want to clarify.
Yeah, sure.
You had invented this before you found out he was guiding you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I thought at 10 years old, spiral staircases should be mechanized, period. That was just one thought. And then I thought, well, I'm going to be a dancer, actor, singer, film star. And so I came to Hollywood, and that didn't happen. And after 15 years, I thought I better get some other source of income here. And I thought, oh yeah, the invention, I'll actualize the invention. And so I began with this model, with this wire and whatnot. And it was during this time in 2006, 9, 12, that he was aiding me. He was coming in and sending me the rest of the information that I needed to complete it.
So let me ask you, why aren't engineers clamoring all over you for this technology?
Well, engineers need funding. There's all kinds of ideas in the world, but their time is valuable. I mean, they charge, $50, $100, $200 an hour to engineer anything. And so they're happy to help you develop your ideas, but they have to be paid. They've got wife and kids and mortgage and whatnot, generally speaking. And so, yes, they're excited. They're amazed that I invented it, really amazed, but they can't just jump in and realize it, on a hope and a dream. So that's really been the challenge, is finding the revenue to pay them. And I've had consecutive meetings with angel investors and various types of funding resources, and nothing has come together because they don't see, they see the long-term benefit of spiral staircases, but they don't see that you have to put your money on the table at this point in order to get there. But I'm confident that I will. Go ahead.
I'm listening to you. When I think of a spiral staircase, I get a little nauseated and dizzy.
Uh-huh.
That will not happen with this staircase, right?
Absolutely not, because we walk up spiral staircases and we don't get dizzy, and we go up escalators and we don't get dizzy. It will not be an issue.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that, because I'm thinking of a mechanical staircase just buzzing me up.
Sure.
And then dropping me down. And
Right.
I thought, I think I'd get turned around and nauseated. So that's why, but I am really excited for you. That Tesla is actually guiding you to do this.
He is.
Tell him to guide you to the funding.
Right. That's what I've said. I've sent up prayers to tell him that I've gotten this far, so let's bring in the rest of the funding. And I think that will happen. I'm an advocate of what is her name? She's I'll come back to that. So I consulted with a third psychic who is in Ontario, British Columbia, and his name is Derek White Skycloud. And even though two psychics had referenced Nikola by quoting him, I wasn't convinced for some reason. So a year later, I contacted this third psychic and I said, "What do you see for my business?" And he said, "Well, Nikola Tesla is here." And that sealed the deal for me.
You got this 3 different times,
Yeah.
3 separate sources.
Yeah. And he said, he's telling me that he works with 5 or 6 men and women on Earth right now, presently, and you're one of them. And now he's going on about flying cars. And I've been thinking of developing an electric car rather, but not a flying car, because I hadn't figured out the continuum, the in-flight propulsion mechanism that UFOs use. So I was glad that Nikola had come through a third time, and I put up a request on Upwork to find an engineer to finish the computer-aided design work on my spiral escalator invention. And when I spoke with him, he's in Cairo, Egypt, I told him this Nikola Tesla story about the invention, because he said, "How did you happen to invent a spiral escalator?" And I told him the Tesla story, and he said, "Well, that's eerie." And I said, "Why is that eerie?" Because I thought he was a skeptic. And he said, "Well, I invented a flying car. The blueprint's right here on my shelf." And so I know that it was Nikola Tesla saying flying car to me during that interview so that I would connect the dots with this engineer and that would be the person, because this engineer had a profound insight as to how to engineer my spiral escalator. And he is halfway through the process now. He's 50% paid, and I'll find the rest of his funding. But I thought it was interesting that Nikola admitted that he's speaking with other people on Earth with other projects. And on TikTok, there's other people who are stating that they're in communication with Nikola Tesla. So it's just fascinating, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. I really am.
Oh, you must be.
Yeah.
I know it's so difficult for many people to believe that.
Yeah.
We hear from people who've passed on,
Yeah.
and I feel sometimes when we are so skeptical and we're so shut up, we are so closed in about certain things, we
Yeah.
block our blessings and we block some of our life's missions because some of it comes from inspiration, I think, from some people who've already passed on. But that's just Jennylyn's humble opinion.
Well, it's Jennylyns humble opinion, and it's also a universal truth. We are definitely influenced by the spirits of those that have passed on. We're influenced by the spirit of our spirit guide, and we are each of us a direct conduit of God. So we have our higher selves inspiring our every action. And it was Esther Hicks and Abraham that I was trying to reference earlier in terms of her advice. And that being that you have to remain optimistic. You have to accept what you are knowing about what it is that you see becoming, and then allow it to become. And I'm accepting that the money for this invention will arrive,
Of course.
and the invention will be made manifest.
When you get rich and famous, remember to
Yes.
call me up and go, hey, Jennylyn, I made it big. You want to interview me again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll do a before and after interview.
Yes, I'm so excited for you. I feel that when you're open, I'm very open also. And I
Yeah.
mean, I've attracted the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it's not going to change that because I live a fearless life. I
Right.
believe that in this world, we are going to have many different situations coming at us, and we have to be discerning.
Yes.
And when you hit the bad, you just sort of ride the tide and overcome it. Because when you are open to your spiritual side, your angels and your guides, they take care of you.
Absolutely. And people, I have people that talk to me through my TikToks, and they ask me, well, I'm afraid of dying. And I say, well, you've already died. We've all died hundreds of times. And they said, well, where will I go? What's going to happen? And I say, you go to source, you go home, you go to where our origin, where we're from, and you look at what you have achieved in the physical world, and you check that off the list, and then you look at what you'd like to achieve in the physical world. And if you so choose, you then reincarnate and you come back and you do it again after selecting your parents and your gender and your ethnicity, and you try again. But they say, well, why do we do this? And I believe it's what I've read, and that is that the physical world forces you to address matters that you could not address in the non-physical world, in the astral, because when you're hungry, you got to find something to eat in this world. In the astral world, you can fantasize about foods and it's right in front of you, but there's no demands on you per se.
So I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question.
Okay.
How did you become so spiritually evolved? So many people are afraid of spirituality because we are born and we are sent to school and we are fed, but one of the things that nobody really teaches us is spirituality. We're taught, we are exposed to religion, but spirituality in this evolved form, as you know it, and I experience it because I've been open and I've been listening to my guides.
Yeah.
We're not taught this. Nobody. So for a lot of people, we're just so oblivious. And humans generally frown upon things that do not resonate with them. And oftentimes the things that do not resonate are things that we aren't taught by our parents or the people that we look up to or that we value or that we have on pedestals. If they're not talking about it, we frown upon it. So how did you get so spiritually evolved? How did you get to this level of spirituality where you can actually receive the messages from your guides? And Nikola Tesla is able to channel what he's trying to create on the earth through you. How were you able to receive this? I want to ask you this because I want someone watching this who thinks it's craziness to hear from you. Look at what you're doing with the information that you're getting.
Yeah.
So what was it about you that allowed this spiritual growth, and why?
That's a wonderful question. It's so wonderful that it's giving me chills because it presents me the opportunity to answer it. So thank you, Jennylyn. I appreciate the question. And the answer is multifold. I know that at 2 years old, when I was a child, an infant in Long Beach, I was sleeping in my mother's cot. She had built a cot for me, and I was sleeping on my side, and I looked into the closet in the corner in her bedroom, and there was the bust of an evil man, a Slavic butcher, with bulging eyes in color and saliva dripping down. It was green and yellow and red and pulsating. And the message I got from this demonic entity was, I'm going to get out of this closet and eat you. I'm going to kill you and eat you. That's it. And now, mind you, this was 1967. So we didn't have a color television. We didn't have comic books. I'd never seen anything like it. And I was petrified, but I also knew that it was non-physical. I knew that it was a floating entity in the space. I knew I wasn't dreaming.
How old were you?
I was 2 years old.
And you remember this?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like it was yesterday. I could draw it right now. And I screamed and I pointed at the closet, and one of my siblings came in and closed the closet door. The very next day, I was on the same cot taking another nap, and the door was open again, and the entity reappeared even more emboldened, like, you closed the door yesterday, but today I'm going to get you. And I screamed again, and a sibling came in and closed the door again. And then, life happened, and I wasn't in that situation again. But that sort of was the benchmark of alternate realities. I knew that what I had seen was an entity. And I don't know if there had been an insane asylum in that area, or if he had been buried in that area, or what it was, but it was clearly a human who was evil and hated me, So that was the first step. Then 8 years later, when I was 10 years old, we lived next to what is best described as a hippie commune, that our neighbors were, long hair and smoked lots of pot and ate avocados constantly. And one of them, we just accepted that as a crazy, collection of people. And one day I would always befriend them. I was a social person. This young guy is probably, 25. He said, oh, well, you don't need to be physical to communicate with someone. You can communicate to someone in spirit. Like, you can talk to spirits and spirits can talk to you. And that's just, it's like, there's really no difference than from non-physical to physical. And that just locked in my head, like, oh, that's the truth. I just knew it right then. Like, it wasn't hippy dippy. It wasn't a dumb idea. That was exactly the truth. And I just knew it. So I had a lot of time alone. I grew up in the mountains above Palm Springs, and I would build forts and I would go on long walks. And one day I came to this spot that I liked in this little glen. And I thought, okay, if what I believe is true, then I'm going to communicate with my grandmother. I'd never met my grandmother, but I thought she probably likes me and I know I would like her. And so I'm just going to send a psychic message to my grandmother and be her friend. And now I'll just let her know that she's my friend and we're friends and I know her, and that'll be good. And so I did that for a few weeks. 12 years goes by. I'm 22. I hire a psychic, Arthur Pacheco, out of Hawaii through a series of events. He comes to my studio apartment in Studio City, and he says, you didn't know your grandmother, did you? And I said, no, I didn't. And he said, but you had like this communication with her, right? There was a point at which you sent out communication with her. I said, yeah, there was. He goes, yeah, well, she received those messages and she was responding to you at that time. I go, well, good. And then he went on to say, he said, your grandmother wasn't religious, was she? And I said, no, she wasn't religious. And he said, your mother isn't religious, is she? And I said, no, she's not. And he said, and you were not raised with any religion, were you? I said, no, I was not. Now, to get that accuracy meant that he was obviously getting psychic messages, because everybody is raised with religion. And I'm third generation non-religious, for which I'm terribly grateful. And he said, your grandmother's telling you that despite being raised without religion, God exists. And she wants you to know that since having crossed over, she witnessed the true light of God. And that's her message to you today. She wants you to know that God exists and that is a real fact, but all of the rest of it is completely unnecessary. All the other religious stuff is unnecessary. And that just sealed the deal for me, because I was relieved to know with confidence through my grandmother that God existed, and also relieved to know that religion is irrelevant to being a human spirit. And one last factor that I wanted to include is that when we come to this world, we are washed. There's a screen put up so we don't remember every past life and every incarnation and every battle we've ever endured, so that we can focus on this life and have physical engagement with the world around us, as opposed to just sitting back and visualizing and manifesting this and that. So that's part of the agreement when we come here, and people ask, well, how come I don't remember my past life, or how come I don't, or how come she knows?
I always ask that question.
Right.
I always ask that because before we come here to work out karma, or we have twin flames that we have to finish journeys with, and I'm like, so why don't we know? How can you do something if you're not aware that you're supposed to do it? Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's tricky. And fortunately, there's people like Dominique Merlin, one of your former guests, whose entire life's purpose is to give people that information. And it's amazing. She gave me a life reading and it was astounding. And I'm happy to tell you about that. But it's funny that the rule is you get wiped, so you don't know your past, and then certain people will tell you your past. It's amazing.
Well, if you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
People who are closed out to this will never have a conversation with someone like Dominique, because they see her as a nut job. Or those of us who are enlightened and evolved and spiritually mature, we have labels attached to us because we say things that don't resonate with them. But I'm not here to please people. I'm here to do my journey, and I respect everyone else's. So, I put myself out there, and my friends tell me, Jenny, you're such a trailblazer because you don't care what people think. And I said, I don't judge anybody's life. Yeah. And I don't care who's choosing to judge mine, because I am staying true to my path based on what I'm being told by my God. So, we've run out of time. We've been over 40 minutes already.
Oh my God, that was so quick.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I am told that when I do interviews, that people forget that they're on television, and oftentimes they're nervous before. I mean, not you, because you're clearly done this before. And I tell them, the time is going to pass so quickly, you won't even know. Yeah. And that's happened. Our time is over. But before I wrap this segment up, what haven't I asked you that you want to leave with the viewers?
That when you have a denial of the metaphysical, when you dismiss spirit and the afterlife, you're putting a lid on your jar. You're blocking your soul spirit. And what can happen is that you can become earthbound. You get stuck to the physical world. And after you die, you can literally continue going to your job and processing paperwork or whatever you did, not realizing you're physically gone. And when you're earthbound, you delay your own spiritual evolution. And so it is incumbent upon you to consider that, in fact, you are a spirit in a physical body, and that you are in one lifetime, and you have to return to source in order to be back with the people that love you, and to refresh your agenda and set a new course for yourself. But to stop dismissing metaphysics, because metaphysics, as soon will be universally proven, is very real.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, it's true.
I've heard of spirits that are bound to the earth, but I didn't realize. I thought it was because they did things that were really bad, like kill other people.
No, there's the Monroe Institute. Robert Monroe, who had out-of-body experiences, has now established a training where people literally go in and rescue these earthbound spirits and say, look, you don't work there anymore. You were hit by a car and it's time to move on. But there's thousands of spirits that are not connected to who they really are. And that's what happens if you deny the afterlife. And if you think people like you and I are just talking foo-foo nonsense, this is the next reality. And so climb on board.
We're going to do another segment.
Oh, great. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, good. That means you had a good time.
Oh, I had a wonderful time. Thank you. I thought I was boring you, so I'm glad that you want to do more. I mean,
boring me.
You didn't make me feel like I was boring you, but I thought I'm just telling this person too much information.
No.
Thank you.
I tell stories, right? That's what I do. I have conversations with people because I want to share their experiences with the world, and hopefully something you said is going to resonate with someone and help them pass a blockage, maybe. Who knows?
Absolutely. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful. I really, really appreciate it. It was so easy. I can't wait to do it again. Thank you.
Me too.
All right.
Thank you once again for watching
You're welcome.
Conversations with Jennylyn. I am not crazy.
You're not crazy.
These are my opinions and the opinions of my guests. If they don't resonate with you, you can switch the segment off. I don't do this to make anyone uncomfortable.
Right.
I do it instead for the opposite. So hopefully you have questions. I know this is a kind of difficult topic for a lot of people who haven't had experience with it, and I was one of those people, and and people like Adrian has helped me to evolve, and that's why I share these segments with you. So if you enjoyed this segment, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time with another fascinating guest.
Thank you, Jamila.
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.